Welcome, everyone. I'd like to discuss the targeted nerfs to demon form, as well as other consequences of changes to be made in 0.3. Infernal Flame has been doubled, effectively halving our total recoup. Let me be clear. This is a buff for every other Infernal Flame build. The only build this affects is builds using recoup to sustain demon form, like the one I recommend. This is a buff to non-demon form builds. There was also a change to weapon sets, and many of the bugs in my last video are likely to be fixed with this change. With weapons being added to demon form. This may seem good at first, but they also removed our bonus to spell levels, and changed our increased damage bonus to a more damage bonus. What I'm showing here is a comparison of old versus new demon form. If we want the same damage we used to have, we will need ever-increasing amounts of increased damage from items and skill points. This is a nerf to demon form. Now, the meta gems, cast on Shock, Freeze, and Ignite, have been amalgamated. Now they are all the same gem, which costs 100 spirit, a significant nerf already compared to the 60 we used to have. But, we can now charge this meta gem using any element, so if we can Shock, Freeze, and Ignite, we will generate far more energy than before. This is a major buff. One of the biggest changes was that to Ignite. We now have Flammability. I will let the game directors of ZiggyD explain how this mechanic works, and then I will tell you how it actually works in practice, because their descriptions are vague, ambiguous, and probably not even the whole story.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Ignite thing. I did want to clarify because I've got some questions about it in the chat. It builds up now. So like, if you don't Ignite, you get 50% of the Ignite, and then the next failed Ignite will.
It's called Flammability, since we no longer have the curse.
Right.
And as you build up more Flammability on an enemy, the probability of an Ignite occurring goes higher and higher and higher, and once the Flammability is full, the Ignite is deterministic. So if you miss an Ignite, you at least contribute towards the next Ignite being more likely, and eventually it is inevitable.
But one of the other amazing things we got, which was huge from our perspective, is that the way that ground effects work now for the fire is that it has to build to 100% flammability and then it sets them on fire, which means that if you use a level 1 flame wall, it doesn't ignite shit anymore really easily. So that means we can actually add mechanics that trigger off ignites and do all that sort of stuff without it being a disaster.
You don't have to worry about people being full degenerates with it.
Exactly. So if you're using a high level flame wall, it'll set on fire real quick. But if you real quick. But if you're using a low level one, then it takes forever, so you won't do it anymore.
Yeah, so, it's finally a good solve for that. Instead of being
I know it's been a bit of a disaster for a long time, but so now we can have ignite triggers and more supports around that and that kind of thing. And
let's be more liberal with the power you can give out to that sort of thing. And just the consistency has been a pain for any Ignite builds for a while now. So that's just going to be actually consistent now. So that's really good news. And I saw that free.
This mechanic, Flammability, will build up, similar to stun, and other ailments, based on the damage we deal. So, a low damage Ignite will not generate enough Flammability to trigger an Ignite. But, a high damage gem will build up enough Flammability to inflict an Ignite. Ailment threshold rates on meta gems are the most similar mechanic for the sake of explanation. The energy we gain is reduced if we deal low damage. As such, Ignite will not apply if our fire damage is low. Though it is not the same wording, it is the same functionality. Solar Orb has been removed from the gems list. Instead, it has been added to a staff, and as is the case with all stock weapons, the spell has no mana cost. Now we are forced to use a Pyrophyte staff and a Chiming staff in our offhand. They are literally forcing best in slot options on us at this point and controlling which options are available. Eternal Youth no longer lets us restore Energy Shield. Another massive nerf to our build, as it is how we start our loop, safely. We can still initiate a recoup loop, but you must be very careful and precise from now on. This one is big to our whirling slash build. Because it does not create ignited ground without a fire infusion, it does make it very clunky to use as a main piece of a build, but we can still apply ignited ground, which is nice. Mana costs are getting lowered, again, across the board. This is going to make it a lot harder to fill our Infernal Flame as a demon. The Gnashing Sash build will also receive a slight nerf to defense, but does not affect the amount of stacks we gain from it. Soul cores no longer work in all slots, so this reduces how much maximum fire resistance we have access to. Another change to Flame Wall, which will actually increase our damage, is adding critical hit chance to it. But the base damage has been almost halved, which is quite rough.
But also, inherent items. There's another change. Just speaking of gem levels, it just like clicked in my mind. We've actually, what we've done is taken all the wand, staff, skills, and whatnot, and we've effectively balanced them. Because the idea is you find your, like, let's say your volatile dead wand. You're going to use that for a while, like if you have good affixes, especially in the campaign. So what we've done is effectively balance them as if they were like 3 levels higher implicitly. And you can now get up to level 20 gems dropping 20 inherent skills, even on unique items, for the ones that did level up from the ground as well. So like those...
The leveling build I suggested has also been run through by ZiggyD. If we want Fireball to work as it should, we now need fire infusions to spawn the secondary projectiles. For the campaign, we wanted to combine Fireball and Frost Wall, but we were also using Frost Wall to trigger our cast on critical gem at endgame. Well, we just got another 80% less energy generation nerf there. The skill tree has been reworked, and many new skill nodes have been added. We will have to wait until release to see what our options are, though I imagine our skill trees will still look similar. We just won't take as many travel nodes supposedly, which are an indirect nerf to spells like Stomping Ground and Decaying Hex, because in campaign we can no longer get enough attributes to make these as powerful as other spells. The new keystones that are relevant to us are Black Flame Covenant and Ritual Cadence. I'll just be honest, triggering spells every 2 seconds is not going to cut it, but nice try ZiggyD, I'm not falling for this one. Also, Black Flame Covenant does not seem that powerful relative to our current options, other than opening a ring slot so we don't use Black Flame Ring. Our Bringer of Flame Ascendancy is still more powerful, as Ignite ignores resistance anyway, so there's no reason to convert it to Chaos unless we are a Chaos build. We also get a new source of Ignited Ground from Beira's Anguish. This will help us build flammability faster to trigger ignites. This change never normally applied to Demon because we couldn't trigger this effect, but the Blood Mage could. Our Sire of Shards Frostbolt build on Blood Mage, and any build using mana to trigger the COI loop will be affected by this fix. They also remembered to scale down our attribute requirements, after removing a lot of it from the tree. Great job here. This is not a change we will notice, because we will already have less attribute points, but they still try and frame this as a buff, when they nerf us with the other hand. Gloamgown will also now be a viable option for defense using Eternal Youth, as it is now affected by Energy Shield recharge. I am sorry. Even though the builds I made were based on accurate in-game descriptions, they were not seen as acceptable by ZiggyD or some other content creators and some members of the Path of Exile community. Obviously not us, and thank you for that. I'd like to also quickly touch on another point they mentioned, and one I've seen many content creators mislead people on. Trade is not fixed. They are introducing a new system to exist alongside the old system. There will still be price fixers. There will still be players who are AFK. All this does is incentivize you to give them money for a stash tab you cannot convert afterwards. Once you buy a trade tab, it can only be used as a trade tab. This is barely even a band-aid fix. Finally, let's take a look at my plans for 0.3. Both our leveling and endgame builds have too many changes to follow easily, so I will be labeling them as patched on the 29th. And I will follow suit with updates to as many as I can update. My best advice for anyone playing Demon form on day 1. Use Chaos spells, Contagion, Essence Drain, and Dark Effigy Totem. Also Decaying Hex, though this has been nerfed. Check the shops every level, for gear that has life regeneration on it. Also use the skills that are attached to weapons, as they were buffed. I really need to see the updated skill tree and support gems before I recommend anything, but we have seen the skill changes, and I am confident that Contagion and ED will be a great starter for any class. I'll be back an hour or two after the 0.3 patch hits, to share what I'm planning to test, and if we get back online or not. Then, I'll be playing through the new league into endgame, as a demon, and will share full VODs of my entire playthrough for you guys to see. For now, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching, thanks for sticking with me this far. I do hope the show is not over just yet. Take care, everyone.